Music and worship. Ancient worship included songs praising the Lord, accompanied by music. Temple musicians played a variety of instruments such as cymbals, pipes, drums, and harps. This Assyrian carving shows two harpists playing. Dancing. In biblical times, the Israelites often danced to show their love of God. The Hebrew word used for dancing in the Old Testament invoked the idea of tuning and whirling. Dance is still a part of celebrations today. The hora above is traditionally danced at Jewish weddings. David is king. When David heard that Saul and his son Jonathan had died, he was grief-stricken and composed a beautiful lament. Your glory, O Israel, lies slain on your heights. How the mighty have fallen. Saul and Jonathan. In life they were loved and gracious, and in death they were not parted. They were swifter than eagles. They were stronger than lions. After Saul's death, David was anointed king of Judah. Saul's surviving son, Ishbosheth, was made king of the tribes of Israel to the north, and so the country was divided, Judah in the south and Israel to the north. They warred constantly, but David and his people grew stronger and stronger. Eventually, Ishbosheth was killed and David was made king of all the tribes. He was 30 years old and he had already ruled Judah for more than 7 years. David wanted to establish a new capital, so he took his men and marched from Hebron in Judah to the great walled city of Jerusalem. It was a natural stronghold, sandwiched between Judah and Israel, and surrounded by 3 valleys. But the Jebusites, the Canaanite tribe who lived there, barred the gates firmly against the intruders. The Israelites camped out while David devised a strategy. There was a long water shaft that went to the heart of the city, the perfect route. He sent a few of his men, and, with the help of their scaling hooks, they climbed the shaft, emerging within the city walls. The men unlocked the gates, and the Israelites poured in and captured the city. David made it the capital of his kingdom, and it became known as the City of David. He became more and more powerful because the Lord was always with him. He built a splendid new palace out of cedar, wood, and stone, with plenty of room for his wives and all their children. With great rejoicing, the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Jerusalem. It was accompanied by a huge procession of people singing and dancing. Joyfully they played their harps, lyres, tambourines, and cymbals as the ark was carried through the great walls into the city. David took off his royal finery to join in the celebrations, but one of his wives, Michal, who was the daughter of Saul, watched from the window and did not like what she saw. "How the king has distinguished himself today," she shouted at him sarcastically, "taking off his royal robes in front of those slave girls. How vulgar! Whatever next?" David looked up at her and said, "I am celebrating before the Lord, who chose me as king of Israel rather than your father or anyone from his house. I will be even more undignified if I want to." And with that he turned away and carried on dancing and praising the Lord. The ark was put into the innermost part of the tabernacle, its new home in the middle of the city. And David gave thanks, sacrificing a bull and a fattened calf. He made the offerings to the Lord in front of everyone. Then he blessed the people in the Lord's name and gave each of them a loaf of bread and a little cake made of raisins and dates. Understanding the story. Under David, the tribes of Israel are united, and a new kingdom is established. When David brings the ark containing God's commandments into Jerusalem, he acknowledges that God is the true ruler of Israel. This act makes Jerusalem the religious capital of Israel. Unlike Saul, David obeys and worships God. He dances at the celebration, marking his commitment to God and the union of his people in the Promised Land. I am celebrating before the Lord, who chose me as King of Israel. This section from Tapestry of David and Bathsheba, circa 1510 to 1515, shows David dancing barefoot before the ark. The City of David. Today, the gold-topped Muslim shrine, the Dome of the Rock, far right, shines brightly next to the excavated City of David. King David captured Jerusalem from the Jebusites. It made a perfect royal capital, and it was protected by valleys on 3 sides and had a good water supply. David then took up residence in the fortress and called it the City of David. He built up the area around it, and he became more and more powerful because the Lord God Almighty was with him. 2 Samuel 5:9-10.